Alrighty, so MLS Cup is over, and I'm actually just watching the trophy presentation right now that they're about to do in a couple of minutes. But in the end, the Seattle Sounders is 2019 MLS Cup champion as they beat Toronto FC 3-0 in this game. And listen, I know there's going to be a lot of people that's going to complain about the fact that, well, this was a very boring game. And it was. For the first 60 minutes, you could literally not actually watch the first 60 minutes and then come back and you would basically get the best part of MLS Cup. But at the end of the day, that's what Cup Finals is all about. You know, when you look at most of the Cup Final, even like the biggest Cup Final, like the Champions League Final or even the World Cup Final, it's not meant to be entertaining. It's meant to be between two teams that really wants to fight it out, and that I think it's clear to say that you remember how I said in the preview where that cliche about how scoring the first goal is very important in a cup final, and that I always say it's kind of like a cliche because sometimes it's not true. Well, maybe it is true because it seemed like when Seattle got that first goal, that's when TFC kind of start to capitulate a little bit. Now, before the game started, both teams, of course, put out their starting 11. And one thing I noticed in the starting 11 is that Omar Gonzalez, as I expected, he was back in the starting 11. And Josie Altidore, who's, we've been having this discussion for the last couple of days leading up to this game, whether or not if he's available for this game. Well, it turns out he was available for this game and that he actually was on the bench and expected to be coming off the bench in this game. Now, for the Sounders, they did have one change in their starting 11, and that's Roman Torres that is coming in favor of Arriaga. And, I definitely agree with this decision, considering the fact that you look at the last game when Seattle played LAFC and how Arriaga, he was the weakest link in terms of defense. There was a couple of times that he could have easily commit some very bad fouls, and that it could have cost the Sounders the game, and that I feel in this big stake of a game, you can't just let your youngster basically decided to start in this game. And also, just seeing that Nicolas Ladero is carrying the trophy, and they are, of course, about to lift the trophy. This is also going to be in the thumbnail on the picture of them lifting the trophy here. But, yeah, so that was the starting 11 for this game. Now, in the first half, Toronto, they had majority of this possession while Seattle looking to counter. And this is something that I kind of definitely did not expect. I thought the Sounders was going to really be at the throat of TFC, and that, since TFC don't really have like a lot of attackers, they're probably maybe just trying to sit back and hope that they can do what the Sounders did back in 2016, which is sit back and hope that this game can go to extra time or even on a penalty kick shootout to see how this game will play out and whether they can win MLS Cup that way. But they really went after Seattle, and throughout majority of the game, this has been the theme of the majority of the game where TFC, they were absolutely dominating in terms of the possession, and that they were really outplaying the Sounders. Like, the Sounders for majority of the game just decided to sit back and counter, and most of the time they just could not counter, especially as we get later into the first half and into the early part of the second half, where they just cannot get out of their own half. Now, there was a couple of half chances from both teams, but there was still no real chances that either team had, and both goalkeeper has been relatively quiet for the first 20 minutes of this game. The biggest chance in the first 25 minutes of the game came in the 21st minute when there was a corner coming in and Torres was open in the box, but unfortunately he basically struck that one over the bar. I mean, whenever you have your center back that is open in the box and he elected to strike it off his feet instead of using his head, usually that's not going to end up into the back of the net. So that was really the biggest chance that Seattle had so far. up until that moment. But then after that, again, TFC, they just dominate the possession. Seattle was defending very deep, which is something that I definitely did not expect it. But at the same time, neither team really has been good in the final third, and this is why TFC, if only TFC had Josie Altidore in this game, you wonder how different this game would be. If they only have like a goal scorer where, they of course can take all those chances that they had and create something on the founder and give it to Josie Altidore throughout this game, you wonder how different this game would be. But obviously, we'll never find that out because he didn't come on until in the latter part of the second half. The midfield of TFC was just completely overrunning the Sounders. I mean, the Sounders, they just could not get out of their own half in the last 15 minutes, and I thought for sure that maybe TFC, of course, were eventually going to get that first goal, but like I said before, because they don't have Josie Altidore and because they don't really have a true, real goal scorer that can, of course, come off the clutch, then, yeah, that, of course, is a big problem. Well, actually, I won't say that they don't really have a real goal scorer coming off the clutch, because throughout this playoffs, they have had a couple of unsung hero kind of player that you didn't expect to come off the clutch and score, and they're able to score in that point. Well, yes, they of course have done that, but you just wonder, is that luck about to run out, and that, it's only going to go as far where you're going to have these kind of players that unexpectedly stepped up in these playoff game and come through the clutch. And it seemed like that luck and that strategy that TFC have kind of relied on throughout the playoffs kind of ran out in this game against the Sounders. Now, before we head to halftime, and the game, of course, was still at 0-0 as we head into stoppage time, I thought TFC maybe could have got the first goal, but instead it was Seattle that almost got the first goal, and Rui Diaz actually went one-on-one with the goalkeeper, but Quentin Westberg, who has just been incredible this postseason, comes up with a big save to basically get this game at 0-0, and that, if the Sounders would have scored, and if Rui Diaz would have scored at that point, this would have just been completely against the run of plays with the way that TFC has just dominated up until that point. Now, in the second half, the Sounders, they were still defending very deep, and I was thinking, like, at halftime, Brian Schmitzer has to change either the tactics or maybe make a couple of substitution in terms of changing this game up, because they were really on the ropes for the last 15 minutes, and I just don't know how long before, eventually TFC is going to have Josie Altidore ready to come on in this game, and that they're going to have that one moment that TFC seems to always have in this playoffs to eventually get the first goal. But instead, it was Seattle, the one that had that moment, and in the 57th minute, I wrote Leerdam scores from Rui Diaz, but in reality, this was actually an own goal, and haven't really checked the MLS Soccer website to see if they have changed it or not. I guess I'll check it here again to see if they have changed it. I mean, when you look at that goal, when Leerdam basically struck it, it took a wicked deflection off of Morrow, who basically, unfortunately, that wicked deflection headed into his own net, and that, that shot also looked like it was going wide too. So if that is the case, then that usually is an own goal. And so I'm looking on here on the website, they're still saying that Leerdam, of course, got that goal from Rui Diaz. But either way, I'm pretty sure the Sounders don't care if it's an own goal or not, because they got that first crucial goal, and that goal was also the first MLS Cup goal that Seattle Sounders have scored in their franchise history. Yes, back in 2017, they got shut out against TFC. And then if you look at 2016, where that was the game where it was an infamous game where the Sounders actually had no shot on goal and didn't score a goal, but still somehow won on penalties to win MLS Cup. And a lot of people have always put an asterisk in terms of the Sounders winning that cup because of the fact that they kind of got very lucky in that game. This one, I don't think a lot of people will put on an asterisk, because the Sounders, they they were able to score a couple of goals in this game. But I just have a feeling if this is the goal that decide the game, and that if this game is going to end 1-0, then yeah, I think people are going to once again put on asterisk in terms of the Sounders winning this MLS Cup, because they didn't score this goal. It was their opponent that scored this goal. So, up until that point, it was a 1-0 lead for the Sounders, and it was a crucial goal for them. And that I thought after that, TFC absolutely need to bring on Josie Altidore, and it seemed like they actually listened to me, because as soon as I wrote this down on the board, just 1 minute later, Josie Altidore came on for Benazet, and this is when I thought maybe TFC was going to turn this around. But instead, going back to what I said, how the first goal is so crucial in these cup final games, because you can really dictate how the game, of course, would work, and the other opponent would really have to chase the game. Well, let's just say TFC did not do a good job in terms of trying to chase this game, and that goal, I think, really changed the way this game is. And that after, when Seattle went up 1-0, TFC just doesn't really create the same kind of pressure that they did for the first 60 minutes of this game, and that Seattle really started to woke up on the attacking end. But before they got that second goal, in the 72nd minute, Gonzalez almost scored an absolute horrendous own goal, where he basically decided to back pass to Quinton Westberg, even though both of them was only like about 7 yards apart. I mean, that was just like, if that would have been an own goal, like, I know people is gonna once again say, well, Seattle got lucky again because their opponent made the mistake, but I just would think that is more to do with TFC not only shooting themselves in the foot again, but it's just their mistake was the reason why it contributed to the Sounders' second goal, more than the Sounders got lucky again and that their opponent scored a second own goal. And that, the Sounders, of course, finally starts to wake up in attack, and really they started to wake up in attack after they got the opening goal of this game. And eventually the game was pretty much over in the 76th minute, because Victor Rodriguez, who come off the bench in this game, scores from Ladero and Swenson to make it 2-0 at that point. I wrote game, set, and match because I knew TFC was not going to come back into this game. Like, maybe at 1-0 when they started to maybe get going on the attack, then I think maybe TFC might still have a chance. But at 2-0, I knew it was over. Like, the Sounders was not going to blow this 2-0 lead. And it especially how the momentum has really swung into the Sounders' favor after they got the opening goal. I knew this game was pretty much over. And it was definitely over in the 89th minute when Ruidíaz basically put the cherry on top to give the Sounders a 3-0 lead, and he was assisted by Gustav Svensson. TFC did get a consolation goal in the 92nd minute, and it's actually Altidore that scores from Pozuelo to get that consolation goal, but overall it was a little bit too little too late, as I actually just realized I made a mistake here. It's not 3. See, the Sounders didn't win 3-0 in this game, and they actually won 3-1 against TFC. And because I really want to do this right after the game is over, that's why I kind of made a little bit of mistake in terms of some of these things that I put on the board. But yeah, that of course is the final score of this game, and I actually didn't put the shots and the stats in this game. But in terms of the stats in this game, in terms of shots in total, the Sounders and TFC actually both had 14 shots in this game, and that the Sounders actually had 6 shots on goal compared to 5 that TFC had, 2 shots off target compared to 3 that TFC had, and both teams had 6 shots that was blocked. And possession-wise, TFC had 65% possession compared to just 35% possession that Seattle has, and that a lot of that possession came in the first hour of this game for TFC, that basically just dominate possession, and that Seattle just cannot get out of their own half and kind of get pinned in. But because of a moment of fortune for the Sounders, and that, as as an old saying goes with these cup final game, of the fact that it doesn't take much for you to score a goal, where if you get like a fortunate bounce or your opponent unfortunately score an own goal off of a deflection, that is all it takes to either spark a team or potentially win you a game. And I think that's pretty much the narrative of this game, where despite the fact that TFC for majority of this game were the better side and that they were really on the front foot in this game, they were just kind of fell into the victim of an unfortunate bounce, which happened in the 57th minute, or actually not an unfortunate bounce, but kind of an unfortunate instant when Lairdan basically strike that one. And obviously obviously when you see players that try to strike a goal, defenders are tend to try to block them, but the problem is when you try to block a shot, sometimes those block shot could actually deflect right back into the back of the net, and then you of course score an own goal. And that is what happened to Morrow in this instant, and that was really the moment where this game just completely turned on its heads, and that the Sounders basically dominate the rest of the way. But yeah, either way, guys, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash that subscribe button. Obviously, this is pretty much it. The season is now over. I mean, it's kind of hard to believe the fact that the season is pretty much over in MLS. Like, I feel like it's just been yesterday since I was talking about the opening matchup of MLS. And I guess the reason why this season has gone much faster than previous season is because this season is shorter than previous season, and that this game in most cases in past years should be happening in December instead of November, but because MLS this season decided to change the schedule, making it a little bit more complex, and also the playoffs to be kind of going in a very fast pace, that's why it feels like this season is pretty much over in a flash. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely been a great season. I mean, we have seen a lot of crazy things so far this season, and I can't wait to see what 2020 is going to bring to the table. Obviously, we're going to have two new teams in 2020 with Nashville and Inter Miami is going to be coming into the league. I know there's already a lot of people comparing the fact that Inter Miami is probably going to have the same success as what LAFC and Atlanta has in their inaugural year, and Nashville is basically going to be like the Minnesota and FC Cincinnati of expansion team, which is that they're going to struggle in their first year. But we shall see how it goes, and that, as we get ready for the off season, I mean, we're almost getting to a point where we're going to potentially have some signing in these next couple of weeks, which is why I'm going to do a couple of news of the week video in these upcoming weeks, and then I'm going to start doing 2 news of the week videos per week in terms of talk about some of the transfers and some of the trades that's happening around the league. And also we'll cover the expansion draft and talk about who exactly Inter Miami and also Nashville got in terms of the expansion draft. But either way, guys, hope you guys enjoyed this video and hope you guys enjoyed this season of me doing review. Can't wait to do this once again heading into next season and start doing this, I think, as soon as when CCL is going to happen. I'm going to do this once again, where when CCL starts to happen, I'm going to start doing some review for the CCL games, and let's just hope that maybe this is going to be finally the year that an MLS team will finally win CCL, but we shall see how that's going to go. But like I said, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I, of course, will see you guys next time.